Alright, restarting this. Alrighty, so here's a comparison few have asked for. I've got all three of these lying around. I may as well make this comparison before I start getting rid of some of these. I mean, I really don't need both of the HD800s in my collection. So, let's jump right into it here. On the left, we've got the legendary German Sennheiser gods. We've got the HD800, known for its legendary detail and endgame soundstage. The HD800S, its younger brother, which was designed to fix many of the HD800's flaws. To the date, online forums fire up to debate which of these really is the better sibling. But that is not today's discussion. On the right, we've got a newer headphone to the Summit-Fi realm by a boutique American manufacturer, ZMF. The Auteurs were built with the Sennheiser HD600 line in mind. Many people love their pair so much, they really craved an endgame version of them. ZMF to the rescue, here it is. So before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We've got various audio reviews as well as some gaming streams coming every other Saturday for now. I think I'm going to start streaming Cyberpunk this weekend, so that should be pretty fun. And if you don't get to catch it on Twitch live, well, guess what? I'm going to record it and I'm going to upload it to the YouTube channel, so stay around for that. If you're into the tunes, the games, or the memes, this is the channel for you. Now with that out of the way, which headphone will emerge victorious? Let's find out now. So let's begin with contents. There are only a few differences to point out here. First and foremost, the Auteurs come with two different types of pads, while the HD800S and HD800 only include a single pair of pads, the ones you see, these thin little sheets on the headphones. Also, while the 800S now come in a wooden box, they used to come in a cardboard box lined with a foam interior, such as the ones I currently have for the HD800 and 800S. The Auteurs, on the flip side, come packaged in a seahorse case. It's a very protective carrying case used to transport very premium items. So, like the pleb that I am, I bought my Auteurs off of someone pre-owned. So, I don't know of the wondrous joys of owning a seahorse case, and yeah, leave it up to me to complain about a carrying case when I got an expensive pair of headphones. Only me. Now as for the cables, you get a really long 4th-inch cable and a really long Pentacon cable with your HD800S. As for the Auteurs, you get the stock 4th-inch cable in the stock configuration. However, you can add an upgrade cable to your order for a modest to not so modest price bump, depending on the configuration you choose. So now let's approach the build quality. And by the way, not all of these are going to be in the shot all at once. I mean, there's just only so much I can do with the room in front of me. So it is what it is. So this one is quite different. Now you've seen the HD800 and HD800S's design. It's unique and legendary. Of course, they are built to last. The Auteurs feature a less traditional setup that simply works. This isn't like a traditional bungee headband either. It features an extra layer of material that doesn't quite suspend it like a bungee headband, but it still has a bit of that pressure relief on it. Oh, and in case we haven't discussed it yet, the HD800 and S are made of metal and some plastic, while the ZMFs offer wooden cups with some metal around the hinges, such as this yoke and such as this, well, I don't want to call it a cup holder, but you know, the yoke of the headphone. Cup holder. You crazy man. Now last of all, the HD800 offer these 2-pin connectors, while the ZMF Auteurs offer a 3-pin mini XLR, dual mini XLR 3-pin setup here. Quite frankly, I'd say the dual 3-pin connectors do feel the most robust and secure out of these two. I will say this though, even though we make fun of the Sennheiser HD800's extra long vacuum cord cable, it is still better than the stock ZMF cable simply due to that extra length. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't imagine myself lugging around either of these two in any portable manner at all. Like, you cannot. Which leads me to the next aspect. Comfort. This one is going to be a little tough to digest. If you recall my thoughts on both of these, you'll know I've got gripes with both. Let's start with the HD800. These are relatively flat and fit very flush against your head. That's fantastic, actually. I really like that. However, they also come with pads that contain absolutely no padding. I mean, just wow. Even if they were the same thickness but had better padding, that would be much better than these. It might be just a centimeter of thickness at their newest, really. That flatness causes these headphones to slide on your head quite a lot, rendering them somewhat cumbersome to use anytime you're not just literally just sitting forward, no looking around your screen, no looking down to check out your shoes, assuming you can see past your gut. And I'm not describing myself, I promise. But yeah, I mean, really, you have to stay just facing forward. Face your computer screen. You can't move around. You can't lean your head back and like chill on your chair without these, sliding backwards. You can't look down at your shoes because these will fall forward. It's cumbersome. It really, really is. Now, with the Auteurs, these come with some very thick pads, which, while they would improve on that clamp force issue, this causes the headphones to sit quite apart from your head. This also causes the headphones to shift around. So you're basically facing the same issue with both headphones, but in different ways. Between the two, I feel the HD800 and S are the more comfortable pair though. I can wear these for a good couple of hours, even if they start feeling cumbersome. It's annoying, but it's doable. The Auteurs, on the other hand, I have to take them off after like 45 minutes per session for just a couple of seconds because I just can't take it. Now let's discuss the amplification on these. So on my THX AAA 789 amplifier, I run the HD800 and 800S at around 1030 on gain 1 through single-ended, while running them at 11 on gain 1 or 930 on gain 2 through balanced. The two are nearly identical, though I can push the 800S a fraction, and I mean just the fraction, of a notch higher than the HD800 because of their somewhat less prominent treble in most tracks, and we'll get to that later. As for the ZMF Auteurs, I run them at around 11 on gain 2 through single-ended, while running them at 1030 on gain 1 through balanced. So yeah, the Auteurs are a little more power hungry than the HD800 and HD800S. Just a teensy bit. It's really not that much. Now let's approach the sound portion of this review. Before we begin though, once again, these impressions were obtained at stock frequencies through the same amplifier and source. No EQ will be applied whatsoever. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. Bass. Let's start with the bass response. So let's begin with the sub-bass. It's clear to hear that the Auteurs simply have the larger and heftier bass response. However, it shocked me that they're actually not that far off from the HD800S. As for bass guitars, if you recall from my HD800 versus 800S comparison, you'll recall I said that while bass guitars are a tad more forward and thick on the 800S, which is generally a good thing, the HD800 offer a little extra bit of texture to them that simply sounds a bit better to me. Well, the Auteurs managed to bring forth the bass guitar's presence a bit, while keeping most of that rich rumble within the sound. And this is really just nitpicky stuff, but I do believe that the Auteurs managed to bring the bass forward without any real detriments to the sound. When it comes to mid-bass, there's a bit of a difference here. While most people tend to complain about the HD800 or even the 800S's lack of bass, I honestly really like it. I mean, not people complaining, but the bass. I mean, it's definitely far from being a head-rattling experience, but I can also appreciate that these headphones place the bass a bit on the backseat so you can enjoy the stars of the show. That is the mids, the highs, and the soundstage. Even then, the bass on these is very clean and enjoyable, albeit laid back. Unfortunately, it's true when they say that these just don't have the most articulate bass response. Once again though, bass is not the star of this show. So as we mentioned, the HD800 present a lean and clean experience. The HD800S bring that experience a little closer to you, which makes the experience a little more bumpin', as the kids say, but sacrifice a teensy bit of cleanliness in response. Then, the Auteurs bring it even closer to you, but they add sweet juice to the experience. I can't describe it any other way, it's juicy, like it's Make no mistake, at this point, bass is no longer taking the back seat. It definitely stepped forward. Rest assured though, it doesn't muddy the sound or overwhelm the mids and the highs. I am gonna put these out of frame. So mids, right off the bat, female vocals are much more intimate on the Auteurs than on the 800 and 800S. Of course, that comes with the fact that the Sennheiser have such a massive soundstage. The 800s managed to separate the female vocals from the rest of the instruments quite well. They're just not quite as intimate as these. As for cellos, the 800S and Auteur present them a little more articulate and detailed than the 800 do, even though all of them are exemplary. It is clearly a bit of a step up from the HD800, that I will say for sure. When it comes to the timbre though, the Auteurs have a little more juice to them that makes cello sound a tad more realistic. The 800S are just very, very close behind, while the 800 are a little less than close. As for the general big band instruments like those heard in Tank by the Seatbelts, the Auteurs have this very natural tone to them that make the instruments sound detailed yet comfy somehow. The 800S are closer than the HD800, but they both lack a dryness to them in comparison. It's these versus those, and then these. Just putting these back in, subbing them out. Treble. So I do notice something here immediately off the bat. The treble does sound a tad cleaner on the 800S than on the HD800. Apart from that, the Auteur's treble response is definitely darker in most areas, but can get a little peaky and reach the levels of the 800 and 800S in some areas. If we're talking about a treble-heavy track like Bangarang by Skrillex, I somehow find the HD800, not 800S, stock 800, to have the most comfortable treble. I don't know. Even though most people say the HD800S have less treble than the HD800, and this can generally be true, the HD800S also have an extra shine to the high end that can also come off as abrasive. Now with the Auteurs, this can be a little true to some extent. The treble is a bit warmer than on the 800 and 800S, it is, but it does hit you on those peakiest of notes. Now, if we're talking about your average track, I doubt either of these will truly bother you with the intensity. In fact, it may please you with how forward and detailed it might be. I do notice that the Auteur's high end is a little more up close and intense in terms of presence than either of the 800S. Not that it's brighter or more sibilant, just closer and a tad more discernible. Soundstage and imaging. Believe it or not, the Auteur actually sound pretty wide as well. In terms of width, they almost, and I said almost, rival the HD800 and 800S. However, they are definitely not as tall sounding, that is for sure. The instruments sound more intimate on the Auteur due to their richness and general proximity. Not of the headphones, but of the soundstage, of course. As for imaging, I actually believe the Auteur sound about as accurate and impressive as the HD800S. However, they combine the accuracy and cleanliness of the instruments with this engaging type of sound. The 800 and 800S, on the other hand, have those excellent imaging capabilities, but lack that extra vibrance and energy to the sound that the Auteurs just, they bless you with it. I believe it's mostly having to do with the timbre of the instruments, giving them a fuller sound. Now let's dig into some notes and observations here. The only thing to discuss is the EQ. Listen, the HD800s are an excellent pair of headphones, truly they are. Everybody knows that. But they have a handful of flaws to them, which is why most people tend to EQ them. While I've been too lazy to reinstall Peace and Equalizer APO to get them working again, here are the settings I've got saved for them. My only gripe had to do with that somewhat harsh high end on treble heavy tracks, and other than that, I mean, I gave it a little bit of extra sub bass, around 30 Hz or so, just because I like sub bass, and it's a dynamic driver, so you'll experience roll off. Just trying to alleviate some of that. Not too much, just some of it. The 800S, guess what? Pretty similar, but I also don't really EQ them. The Auteurs, definitely the headphone that needs the least EQ out of these three. Again, I can use them without EQ whatsoever, but here are the settings I preferred using on them when I tried using EQ. It made them a little better, but again, it's really just really not that necessary. Conclusion. I'm sad. I really am. I'm sad. The auteurs really are such a work of art, and a portal to your music. It goes to show that Zach really knows his stuff, and can deliver a super solid product. However, I personally can't get over the comfort aspect. This makes my choice on whether I keep them or getting rid of them a true dilemma, because I love the sound of these. They sound brilliant, they sound beautiful. They're full of life without bombarding you with like lushness and richness or anything like that. It's just, when you think of like, oh, artist and product, when you think of Summit Fi headphone, what's that headphone got that my $300 whatever the heck's don't, you know? It's just sound, but it's a little better. This is it. This is that particular sound. This is what makes it so special. This is that difference between they were assembled in a factory, packaged and sent to you, and this guy took the time to create these headphones, put them in a box, and send them over to their owner, like with you in mind. So, out of these three, the ones I found the most comfy were the HD800, just because they happen to have a slightly stronger clamp force than the HD800S that I have here. Now keep this in mind, I bought both of these pre-owned, again I'm a pleb, so it's entirely possible that the previous HD800S owner may have widened them a lot, may have stretched them out a lot more than the previous HD800 owner. Who knows really, who's to say, but I can just tell you this much, I find these way more comfortable than these. Still not super comfortable, still slide off my head, but not as often as these. So, in the end, comfort not being an issue, I would go with the Auteurs first. Just no doubt about it. Go with the Auteurs first. Then, reluctantly for the 800S over the HD800. Again though, all three of these are amazing headphones, and I don't regret owning either of them. I'm glad I spent time with each and every one of these, and regardless of which I keep, which I get rid of, I'm happy they were here. So that pretty much concludes this comparison. Hopefully you got something out of this, and if you have any questions about it, drop them down below. Again, like, comment, subscribe, gaming, memes, I've got it all here. Anyways, thank you very much for coming to this channel. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, ciao.